I tried to explain it to my parents. They're like, "Are we going to an event?" They're like, "Yeah." I just tell them it's a really good game that's in a really gray area, and that's pretty much as far as I can get with two immigrant parents about a Smash Brothers game.
It's pretty hard. Like my mom keeps asking me about it. It's just like, so which game is this one? Is the one you play? Which one? Oh, this is the one Nintendo doesn't like, right?
The reason I'm not home ever and why we don't have a connection anymore.
Well, if I'm going parents, first you have to start with, what the concept of a video game is. So, no, but, Project M is a modification of Smash Bros. Brawl to make it into a better, faster game.
Which one's that for, honey? Oh, it's the one on the Wii, but not the one on the Wii. It's like a mod of the one on the Wii to make it play like the one on the GameCube, like the one I played with my brother when we were kids. Remember that?
It's illegal.
No, dude.
It's a game.
It's that that old Smash game Melee, and then the one that came after it Brawl. You just put them together. That's PM.
If they say what game, I say Smash Bros. 9 times out of 10, that's where the conversation ends. Project M is a niche thing fundamentally, and it's very weird to explain, hey, here's this game. It's a mod of a, I believe, 10-year-old Wii game to make it play more like a 16-year-old GameCube game. If they say Smash, do you play the new one? Yes.
It's a very simple game where you take your opponent and you push them off the screen. And you have the famous faces that you use are all the beloved Nintendo characters that you grew up seeing.
Project M is a video game where people beat each other up for fun.
There's this game with a lot of really cool characters in it, and we jump around and hit each other and try to throw you off the cliff, and then you explode. It's kind of cool. You can move really fast and stuff, so that's what's fun.
That's a tough question. That's someone that doesn't know anything about Smash, like at all. You pick a character, and you beat up other characters in this, I don't know, you travel like around the world to play the other people in this like shitty party game, but like it's so much fun.
You take the Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which is basically Nintendo King of the Hill. You get a lot of like teenagers and young adults who go, this isn't what we want, do tons of crazy stuff to the innards of this video game, and you get this extremely competitive, fast-paced, spiritual successor to the previous installment.
You go to see a movie and you love it, and you absolutely just love everything about this movie, and then comes time for the sequel. You go out, you watch the sequel, and you're disappointed. Maybe you get a little sad, maybe you post on the internet about it, but that's generally the end of the situation. You were excited for something, you went to see it, you didn't like it.
You remember seeing the original Star Wars prequels? You were trying to convince yourself for a long time that they were good, and then after a year or so, you just finally have to come to terms with the fact that you don't like them. So that was my relationship with Brawl.
We essentially went out and made a shot-for-shot remake of the movie we didn't like, and in that process created our own game out of another game.
The people decided Brawl wasn't that good. It was slow and we wanted to make it faster, so people that were good at, like making games pretty much, like future devs, sat down and made the game better and more competitive and fun, and everyone enjoyed it and played it, till Nintendo said, fuck y'all.
I mean, Melee's popular because Nintendo's awesome. I mean, I'm a Nintendo guy, obviously. And so, like, if you made a Smash Brothers game and it was perfect, it was just the perfect game, it was better than anything anyone could ever imagine. It was Melee plus all PM, plus all the good stuff in Smash 4, and there were 100 characters and it was super balanced, but you didn't recognize the characters. I don't think it's going to do that well.
I love Nintendo video games so much that when I found out there's going to be a Street Fighter-like fighting game, but with all Mario characters, like Nintendo characters, I saw in EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, like Mario holding a sword. And you're like, wow, Darth Mario versus Star Fox versus, and I was like, okay, I have to play this game.
You know what's tight? Mario fighting Link. That's awesome. And it's still awesome. I still kind of geek out about that there's a game that you can do that with. Smash is kind of a miracle because it's intended to be played kind of however you want to play it. There's this kind of like, oh, you're supposed to play Smash with the items on and all the kooky stages, and it's supposed to be random and like almost Mario Party-esque. I really think if that were true, we wouldn't be able to make these decisions. I wouldn't be able to turn the items off. I wouldn't be able to go, now we're going to play on Battlefield. We're going to play on this, rather than like, oh, we're going to play Pokeballs on very high in Icicle Mountain or whatever.
I mean, that's what everybody jokes and calls it, a party game. It's just something fun you could play with. Like, I played it with my little sister against computers, and we just threw items and had fun. But you can also have a lot of fun without items in a serious competition one-on-one.
Oh man, we're crazy people. You know, you get people who think they're good at the game, like I did when I first started playing, who think they're good because they know how to do all the moves. You know, I know how to up you back to the stage or whatever. I know how to, you know, jump above people and come down with the Kirby rock. Like, I'm probably pretty good. But we have demolished any semblance of what this game was ever intended to be in our competitive scenes.
It was kind of, you know, at first it was a party game, but people found out, oh, there's all this stuff you can do. You can, you know, air dodge into the stage to get a little bit of speed when you're moving. You can L cancel, which is basically you cancel the ending animation of your aerial moves and things like that. So over time, the game got a lot more technical, a lot more advanced, and people were playing it really seriously.
Nobody started playing Melee to be competitive or to play in tournaments. It just kind of ended up that way over time.
There was virtually no skill ceiling. You could go as high as you wanted, and every time you thought you were the best, there was always a person who was better than you.
People went from just playing their friends and being like, okay, who among us is the best, to being like, okay, who at our school is the best, who at our college is the best. And that kind of built up to this whole which region is the best and who in the world is the best.
That was really fun for a lot of people. It really challenged them, and they drove to get better and better.
I was ready for a new Smash game. I think that's really important to note. A lot of people, before Brawl came out, we were ready for another Smash game. We wanted more. We wanted something different. Back then, we might have thought, you know, all right, I've been playing this game for 5 years. Maybe it's starting to get a little stale. We were wrong. It wasn't even close to getting stale. But maybe we thought that.
Me and my friends went to this chick's house, and we did a Melee send-off. We just played Melee for like 8 hours straight. You know, one last goodbye. Brawl is going to be sick. Men Night looks sick. This all looks amazing. Let's fucking party.
At the time, I think we all just assumed we would kind of phase out Melee and start playing Brawl. Just that was the natural order of things. We never even considered the fact that we could just keep playing Melee.
I remember getting my friend, my buddy, to actually solder some bullshit into my Wii so that I could play Japanese games just so I could get my hand on Brawl like 6 months early.
People at the E4All pre-release brought notebooks trying to figure out what kind of advanced techniques are there. And like Gimpy Fish was a big one.
So when Brawl came out, was probably like the peak of my personal like popularity in the Smash scene in terms of like people paying attention to me and, you know, all of that stuff. And we got an early copy of Brawl because we got the Japanese copy, and I was putting out videos before any other American players were putting out videos. We also went to an event called E4All that I don't know if a lot of people necessarily remember. It was there were some years where E3 didn't happen. Nintendo kind of put on their own E3 called E4All, and we got to play Brawl there. And I made like a very detailed list. I like gave people assignment sheets that were like, you're gonna check for these things while you play this game because I can't check everything. And we all got together and got the information. That was the most read Smashboards post of all time by far. I mean, it was like 1,000 times the views of the next most viewed thing.
I got so fired up and excited for Brawl, and I was like, yes, finally, like 7, 8 years later, however long it was, right when I was in my freshman year at college, I chose my college, UC Berkeley, because it was closest to DBR. I was like, where are all the best combo videos and players from? NorCal? Pff, done, going there. So I was like, yes, it's about to be a new age of Smash. And it was not a new age. It was the dark ages. It was a new age. It was the dark ages.
I remember getting Brawl and coming back to the house and putting in the disc, and we're playing it, and we're playing it, and we're playing it. And I remember thinking, this isn't right. This shit is not right.
I was like in denial. I was like, this game's maybe not done. Like, this is a Japanese release, maybe it's beta, maybe they'll have things fixed and sorted out by the North American release.
And I remember like going online and people were like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anybody ever. The reaction was not cute.
And I was one of the big proponents of like, you need to give Brawl a chance. I know that it doesn't have wave dashing, and I know that it doesn't have this and this and this. There was a lot of that in Brawl. There was a lot of like, I know you liked this, but now it's not there. Give it a chance.
There was no way to train for this game because you could trip and fall over randomly. Like, nothing comboed, stuff didn't work anymore. I was just like, what? Is it done?
And I think it got worse. I think it was then when we realized we started playing with the roster like, oh, this is not Melee 2 like we thought it was going to be. This is a whole new ball game.
There was a lot of problems with Brawl. There was a lot of things in Brawl that felt anti-competitive or like rubber banding. Like the most infamous is the tripping mechanic, where I believe it was dependent on how many times you were dashing in a match that it could trigger and cause your character to trip.
Tripping is the worst thing in the world, all right? This is the quintessential way to make your game sad.
Tripping is the reason that like someone should have been fired, and then a bunch of people above that person who were like, let's put that in. Yeah, I like your idea. Those guys should have get that out of there.
Yeah, tripping was a random chance when your character's running around on the field that they would just fall on their ass.
You would literally try to put out a move, and your character would be like, oh, I dropped $1. Let me go check the ground real quick.
So tripping is just a % chance that you suck, basically. It's just like, oh, you wanted to have any remote control over your character. We don't like that in our game. We want you to fall over on your face.
In fact, the game even keeps track of every time you've fallen and calls it pratfalling. Look it up.
Oh, you know what they'll really like? I've got a great idea. How about every so often, you just cannot control your character? They're gonna love that. You just can't control your character at all. You fall over and you're vulnerable. And then someone can hit you. Won't people have fun with that?
I think the biggest disappointment was the fact that after a while, those little things just start to build up. You know, you're cool with tripping when you're playing with your boys or you're playing with your friends, and then all of a sudden, you know, it happens to decide a set. Even though it may not happen often, it really only takes one time before that just gets on your nerves.
It's just they went, we don't want people to play this game competitively. And so we want there to be just a random chance that you will just lose.
It was intended by Sakurai to curb the skill ceiling for better players. It was supposed to keep good players from trouncing on bad players. It was to level the playing field, basically.
So since you mentioned him, who's Sakurai?
A madman, an entertainer, game designer, somebody that I don't think you can ever predict what exactly he's going to do. He has given us Kirby, he has given us Melee, and he's given us Brawl, and he's also obviously given us the original, Smash as a series.
He is pretty much the figurehead and to my knowledge, the lead decision makers for things involving Super Smash Bros. As a franchise.
He didn't like that the game looked like it was being super competitive, so he added a few things into Brawl to make it less serious in nature, I guess.
And it feels from the ground up that Sakurai made a lot of decisions in game design that were very blatant call-outs to people saying, you don't get to wave dash, or you don't get to run freely. There were so many things that just felt very intentionally designed to tell the competitive players, stop.
A lot of the intention of that game seemed very pointed at the competitive scene, which was kind of a hard pill to swallow.
Sakurai has said on more than one occasion that he doesn't understand competitive Melee. He has also come out and said that he doesn't understand why you would play Melee if you want to play a competitive fighting game. He has openly said in very recent years that there are better games for that, and that playing Smash for that is not what he designed Smash to be. Smash was not supposed to be the competitive one-on-one platform fighter that we know it as. We turned it into that because that's what we wanted. But Smash is supposed to be this fun, cool, open, easy to access party game for everybody, and then grandma should be able to pick it up and play it without issue.
I feel like he wants to create games that are to be enjoyed by a lot of people with a lot of friends, but I think he's worried about it being too competitive and people's feelings getting hurt.
I don't like Sakurai. He gave, with the release of Brawl, he gave the middle finger to a small but the most dedicated fan base of his game for no reason other than the fact that he didn't like how they played the game. Like, I don't know. It's just one of the most confusing developers for a game I've ever seen to just give the middle finger to your most passionate player base and try with a lot of effort to ruin the game for them.
I think that he's worried about it being taken too seriously, and that's too far away from his vision. You look at this game and you're like, I mean, I can't get mad. There was so much that came down to luck. The dice wasn't on my side. It's fine. But when you have a game that removes luck, it says this is all skill, people's feelings can get hurt. People can get emotional. Things can happen.
He just never liked the competitive scene. He thought that the games were meant to be party games and meant to be fair and everyone can win, which is a fine philosophy for a party game, but it kind of Melee spawned a new scene that really wanted more out of the game.
There was an obvious backhand from Nintendo to the competitive community. They added tripping. They made recoveries a lot better. They just did a lot of things to make competitive players not want to play it. And people, found ways around it, but the things that made Melee great were just removed from Brawl wholesale.
And there was a lot of fighting. It's a lot of fighting. Because the people who do like Brawl, don't appreciate Melee players shit-talking their game every chance they fucking get.
Melee always sort of had this superiority over Brawl because it was more in depth, because it was faster overall. There was longer hit stun. You could perform longer combos with appropriate finishers, whereas in Brawl, it was a lot of small hits, a lot of spacing, very intense neutral.
People usually got a lot of shit for playing Brawl. It's like it's not what the sequel to Melee should have been, I guess. That's how a lot of people feel.
It was not good. You had people like openly booing each other. You had people, talking shit on message boards. The internet was the wild, wild west of platform fighters at this point. It wasn't great. Wasn't great. And that's not even like a reflection of Brawl as a game. It's just the community did not handle that one well at all. And I think part of it is like we were like 14. Like we were still children, literally children. But it wasn't cute, man.
It felt almost kind of like living a double life because I still had a lot of Melee friends and they were like, Anther, I think this game might not be that good. And I'm like, no, guys, it's pretty good. You should play it.
In a lot of cases, if people would, mention, oh, I play Smash Brothers, what do you play? I play Brawl. Oh, you play Brawl.
The fundamentals of the game that meant somebody was good were different and like slower and more thought-oriented, perhaps. Like you couldn't overwhelm somebody with your fast tech skill in Brawl, which is, when you're a player that wins like, difficult sets by overwhelming your opponent with like, fast tech skill, you're not gonna enjoy that game as much because it's not respecting what has like brought you like success in its predecessor.
So when I played my first game of Brawl, that was when the day came out and me and my best friend had waited hours and hours and hours in front of GameStop. And we took it home, and the first thing I tried to do was L cancel, and I couldn't. And I said, F this game. And then I never played it ever again.
I think everyone who played Melee gave it a try at first and wanted to make sure it was like a good game. But then it didn't take too long to them to realize there's just a lot of things that I guess were missing from it as a competitive title, and a lot of design errors, tripping, a lot of just weird character broken things that should have been fixed.
It's like, and then I feel like a lot of the time it created this this scenario where the Brawl players always felt like they played the less skillful game, the less hype game, and the Melee players played the cool, popular game. And if you play Brawl, it's like, what's wrong with you,
Brawl was a different game than Melee, and no one liked how slow and floaty it was. It was hard to kill. And everyone just decided to go back to Melee.
A lot of people did stick. I think that's one of the things that gets glossed over a lot because of this other Smash documentary and sort of revisionist history where people act like, Brawl came out and people played Melee, but a lot of people switched and a lot of people didn't expect Melee to keep living. So they're like, well, the new game sucks. I don't like it. I'm gonna move on.
I gotta respect the community at the time. We definitely gave it an old college try. We absolutely gave it the old college try. We were still hosting Brawl tournaments. People were still finding ways to make the format like relatively competitive, trying to make it as melee as possible. There was one point where like people were talking about making the national standard like lightning mode with 2 stocks and like heavyweight. Like we were just trying to get as melee as humanly possible with the Brawl engine. It was a rough year where we just tried everything we could to shoehorn the Skirkle into the square, and it wasn't happening.
There was just a period of time where we'd go to tournaments every single week, and people had stopped watching top 8, people stopped watching top 4, and then people stopped watching grand finals completely. Grand finals stopped being played out. And I feel like that was a big sign that there was just something wrong with the game, and it didn't matter what rules we tried to make. It didn't matter if we tried to hold, Meta Knight band tournaments or whatever. People just weren't having fun, and people weren't showing up to events anymore. And I think that's what kind of prompted the rise of Project M, is that people were generally unsatisfied with Brawl after about a year.
I have this very clear memory of, getting drubbed out of one of my first Brawl tournaments and sitting there and someone had a melee set up in the corner. And, sitting down to play it with some old players that I used to play with before Brawl came out. And we were all kind of like, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if we could fix Brawl and make it like Melee again? And that was just sort of like an idea or like a dream at the time. But I was like, maybe there's something to that.